An arm, its palm covered in splotchy bloodstains, belonging to a person in a green shirt, reaches out trying to grasp the arm of what appears to be a broken, motionless robot. Suddenly, the paw of a four-legged beast stomps down hard, sending blood splattering everywhere. The monster has a terrifying appearance. One of its eyes looks as if it's formed from a red rose. While one of its front legs is stepping on a robot, its other front leg is pressing down on the lower half of a man's body, while tentacles on its body are tightly wrapped around another person, and it's not alone. Other creatures follow behind it. Not only is its eye shaped like a rose, but there are other roses on its body, each one an eye, carrying a giant man-eating flower on its back. This monster looks truly horrifying. It seems to be a hybrid, a mutation of many different things. And it's not the only one. Many other monsters are chasing after other people. They run in fear, screaming, "Help! Save us!" Sob sob, and this place is Longthan City. And it's not the only one. Many other monsters are chasing after other people. They run in fear, screaming, "Help! Save us!" Sob sob, and this place is Longthan City. Some people are fleeing, but others are still trying to fight the horde of monsters. That young man tightly grips the two sabers in his hands and charges towards those monsters. The young man's face is covered in wounds, blood continuously flowing from his mouth. He clenches his teeth, frowns deeply, and says, "These monsters are completely impossible to kill them all." As he speaks, he raises his saber high and slashes relentlessly at the monsters. Of course, his slashes are not useless. They still manage to injure a few of the monsters. Suddenly, a giant hand made of stone rushes towards him. Startled, he quickly turns his head to look at it. And then he is seized by that stone hand, his eyes widening in shock. Blood from his body spurts out, seeping through the gaps between its fingers. Then it raises the hand holding his body high and throws him forcefully to the ground so hard that he sinks deep into the rocky surface. From within the dense cloud of dust, a dark figure appears standing tall. It's him. He somehow manages to stand up after those painful blows. He groans in pain and difficulty, saying, "I can still continue." As he speaks, his head drops and blood flows ceaselessly from his mouth. The monster whose head he had just severed suddenly has something luminous emerging from the cut. They look like tentacles or parasitic worms inside the monster's body. They squirm and wiggle their way out of the monster's corpse. After escaping the monster's body, they immediately rush forward. All of those things fly towards where he is standing and pierce through his body. Those things slowly lift him into the air before the terrifying eyes of the remaining monsters. He is now gradually losing consciousness, his mouth agape in pain as he struggles to say, "Dad, Mom, I've done all I can." But I'm not ready to give up. Reflected in his eyes is the panoramic view of Longthan City, following that meteors rain down from the sky. The already fallen Longthan City is now even more devastated as those meteors fall and destroy it, leaving nothing but a dense cloud of dust. The scene shifts from the desolate landscape to a classroom. At the lectern stands an elderly male teacher with grey hair. One hand holds a sword, the other a skull of some animal as he shouts at the students below, "Look at me, all of you, look at me." The reason he's yelling is that two students in the front row are busy chatting with each other, and at the back of the class, another student is sprawled out on his desk sleeping. The teacher scolds angrily, "If you don't look at me, how will you know what a monster is like?" No laughing. The sleeping young man suddenly bolts upright, his face still contorted from a deep sleep, his hands reaching forward as if to grab something. This young man looks very similar to the person who fought the monsters in Longthan City. The girl sitting in front of him turns around and asks, "Monsieur, did you sleep yourself silly?" He looks at her with a big confused question mark over his head. He sees the girl frowning at him and thinks, "Who are you?" Then he looks at his hands and thinks, "Am I not dead?" He continues to look around. He sees a banner with encouraging words for the university entrance exam and is shocked, thinking, "A decisive battle for the university entrance exam." Now even more shocked, he lowers his head and thinks, "I'm not dead, and I've even been reborn back to the time of the university entrance exam." Having said that, he lifts his head and stares straight ahead. But he's not happy about being revived. Instead, he thinks in despair, "I still have to take the university entrance exam. I'd rather be dead." The teacher at the lectern, who has been watching him act crazy, now raises his voice and speaks loudly, "Monsieur, if you're going to sleep in class, don't disturb the other students." The look in his eyes at this moment is incredibly terrifying. Hearing his voice, the young man snaps out of it, his mouth agape in fear. He points at the teacher and shouts, "Teacher Ngiem, weren't you dead?" "No, that's not right. You're still alive." After he says that, the surrounding students are petrified. Teacher Ninghiam's face turns blacker than the bottom of a pot as he glares at him. A chubby friend in another row secretly gives him a thumbs up. "Thinking worthy of being the #1 wolf of Class 6, I'll definitely give you a grand burial." Teacher Ninghiam is now so angry that smoke is coming out of his nose and ears. He says in a demonic voice, "Monsieur, care to explain?" Hearing that demonic sound, a chill runs down his spine as he thinks there's killing intent. He immediately kicks his chair back forcefully, bows 90 degrees and says loudly, "I'm sorry, Teacher Ninghiam, I just had a nightmare." The teacher stares at him silently, saying nothing. Trembling, he continues, "I think I dreamed that strange creatures swarmed and attacked Longthan City. Our 100-year-old homeland collapsed in an instant. I was so terrified I jolted awake, and then teaching him in my dream, you were a martyr beloved by everyone, really. At this, the teacher finally speaks up, asking, so you're saying in your dream, Longthan City was destroyed and I died too? As he speaks, the animal skull he is holding is crushed in his hand. Hearing his question, the young man remembers the scene of the teacher standing before the drooling mouth and sharp teeth of the man eating flour, and the next scene is the monster spitting out the teacher's head. As if oblivious to the teacher's feelings, he casually rubs his chin, recalling the painful memory with fear, and says, about that you died. Painlessly, very peacefully. But in his head, he thinks, I think he was torn to shreds in an instant. It probably didn't hurt right. The teacher is now furious. The skull has been crushed to pieces. He grinds his teeth and bites his lip, saying, Longthan City destroyed, how ridiculous. After hearing Monsieur say that Longthan City was destroyed and he died, teacher Ninghyem angrily points at him and shouts, stand against the wall for me, head up, chest out, butt up. The young man immediately complies, but raises his hand to object. Teacher Ninghyem, how can I stick my butt out if I'm standing right against the wall? Hearing his objection, the teacher gives him a warning glare. The young man is so scared he jolts and shuts his mouth immediately. The teacher then puts his hands behind his back and walks down to the student's spot, saying as he goes, Monsieur, tell me loudly, 50 years ago, Longthan City crossed over to another world, plagues spread, zombies ran rampant. Was Longthan City destroyed then? After the zombie pandemic, a thick fog covered everything monsters attacked. We lost a third of our population. Countless martyrs fought bravely, struggling to find a path to survival from between the monster's teeth. By now, he is standing right in front of the young man, his mouth wide open, his face close to the students as he roars, tell me, did they surrender? Was Longthan City destroyed? The teacher's saliva splatters all over his face, but he doesn't pay much attention to that essence instead, widening his eyes to look at the teacher who is shouting at him. He immediately stands up straight and replies loudly, reporting, sir, we have not surrendered. Longthan City has not been destroyed. After hearing his answer, the teacher turns to the rest of the students and says loudly, all of you listen up. Once the clouds clear, the torrent of our weaponry will be as mighty as a storm, carrying the brilliant civilization of Earth, illuminating the entire sky of this other world. How could such a Longthan City be destroyed by those puny, otherworldly creatures? In this world, only we humans from Earth are the most ruthless. A student sitting nearby frowns, clenches his teeth and fists and shouts, that's right, we humans from Earth are the most ruthless. The rest of the students are also fired up, their eyes burning as they shout in unison, that's right. Sooner or later, we'll level this other world. At this moment, a serious-looking student with glasses stands up and says, Teacher Nihiem spoke very well. We should strive to cultivate and earn the right to be strong, to contribute our power for Longthan City. How can we fear the enemy like a tiger and think about the city's destruction all day? I believe that aside from a few cowards, he says, glancing at the protagonist. Hearing him being called a coward, even though his name wasn't mentioned, it was clearly implied, the protagonist gives him the middle finger. The other student then clenches his fist, punches the air and shouts, the thoughts of the majority of students are in agreement. Longthan will be victorious. Earth will be victorious. Hearing him, the students raise their hands in unison and shout, Longthan will be victorious. Earth will be victorious. Lost among the fired-up students is the chubby, pink-haired friend, the one who gave the protagonist a thumbs up when he said, Teacher Hiem was dead now sits with puffed cheeks doing nothing and looking away from the speaker. Suddenly, 4 blushing female students form a heart shape with their hands and take turns jeering at him. Longthan will be victorious. Earth will be victorious. How has Monsieur fallen so far? Always dozing off in class and ranked last. Can't really blame him though. He made a mistake during cultivation and got seriously injured. If it were you, wouldn't you be the same? But that's no reason to curse our Longthan City to be destroyed. Monsieur, realizing the other student instigated the girls to mock him, darkens his face and thinks, Enemy, are you looking for trouble? What grudge do I have with you? Oh wait, I think I do. He recalls his past life. He missed the university entrance exam in his past life because that guy beat him up severely. Moreover, it seems this guy also betrayed Longthan City, siding with the other races when the city was attacked by the other world. He remembers the guy trembling and kneeling before a monster, cowardly saying, Please spare me, I'll tell you everything. In the present, after recalling those memories, he frowns and gives the other student a terrifying glare. Then he runs towards him, stopping right in front. He looks at him and says, Class President. The class president turns to look at him thinking, this guy's gaze is so strange, completely different from before class. The protagonist grins eerily and says, You spoke so well, it truly enlightened me. I'm so moved. Thank you, Teacher Ngyem and class president, for pointing out my mistakes. From today onwards, I will definitely stand firm. Cultivate diligently for the rise of Longthan City in this other world. As he speaks, he clasps his hands and presents them towards the class president. Then he bows 90 degrees and says loudly, and contribute all my strength. Seeing this, Teacher Ngyem waves his hand and says loudly, Consider yourself enlightened. Learn from Tahao Nien. Go on, go to the back of the class and hold the Thap Lung Trang stance for me until the end of the period. It turns out the class president's name is Ta Haonian. The protagonist stands straight and replies, yes sir. The chubby friend sees him easily agreeing to the teacher's command without refuting Ta Haonian's words and breaks into a cold sweat, thinking worriedly, this Mansio kid has been slacking on his 9 great stances practice lately. This 10th stance, if he has to hold it for half a period, I'm afraid he'll just give up and go home. After receiving the order from teacher Ng Hiem, he turns and walks to the back of the class, scratching his head and saying, Thap Lung Trang seems simple enough. It's been a long time since the nightmare. How do I do it again? The students on the class president's side see him being punished and jeer with sinister smiles. Stop pretending, just beg for forgiveness. Yeah, acting all tough. Simple. Just wait. You'll be running home soon. I thought teacher Ng Hiem was cruel, but this punishment seems light. Ta Hao, Hien has sat down at his desk and says, a rotten apple spoils the bunch, he brought this on himself. Meanwhile, the protagonist is at the back, stretching his arms high. Then he smirks devilishly and spreads his legs wide to one side. He enters a powerful stance, his fingers bent as he swings his arms, and now he is in the Thap Lung Trang stance, looking powerful and aesthetically perfect. The atmosphere in the classroom suddenly becomes strangely silent. When teacher Ng Hiem sees the Thap Lung Trang stance both beautiful and powerful, he freezes and stares at him. The 3 who were just mocking him are now dumbfounded, their mouths agape as they shout in disbelief. Damn man, Sieur's Thap Lung. Trang is that strong it's even better than the class president's. It must be an illusion. It has to be an illusion. He must be faking it. In this state he can't last a minute. The last one says this, but he's still so shocked, he spits blood. The protagonist, while holding the stance, looks at the teacher with a pouting face and says, Teacher Ng Hiem, I'm truly sorry I haven't been practicing diligently. My form is a mess. I will definitely work hard to correct it and hope for your forgiveness. Teacher Ng Hiem now turns and walks back to the lectern saying, continue, with the lesson. The 3 from before are still whispering. It feels like after one nap. Man Siu's skill in the stances and his ability to pretend have both increased dramatically. Ta Haonian on the surface calmly lowers his head to write, but internally he's so angry he crushes his pen, muttering irritably, Monsieur, if you're going to annoy me, I'll definitely make you regret it. He is still standing there and now glances at the back of his hand. He seems to see something, and his eyes light up as he lets out a soft hum. Something luminous appears in his vision, and he asks in confusion, what is this? And before his eyes, strange high-tech computer screens appear. The system displays a notification, flame seed binding complete, host identity confirmed, firebearer Mansh Sieur. After seeing the strange tech screens and system panels appear before him, Man Sieur. Then he sees a small flame floating above his head and thinks to himself, this flame isn't this. The plume of fire from the nightmare when Longthan City was destroyed. The one that shot out from the city center and entered my body. He recalls the scene of meteors raining down, destroying Longthan City. In his eyes in the present is the image of a massive explosion that shook the entire sky. The system then displays a notification. Congratulations, Master, on becoming the firebearer of civilization. It is hoped the host will do their utmost to pass on the flame of civilization. Initial bonus contribution, points 10,000 halulus. Examination reveals the host's body has chronic internal injuries and is not proficient in any basic skills. Do you wish to automatically allocate initial contribution points to upgrade to the optimal state? He looks at the system panels in confusion, a big question mark forming. He then sways his body and gives an OK sign with his hands, saying, yes. He returns to his stance and rereads the system's content, analyzing it internally. Internal injuries from a training mistake last year. Even doctors were helpless, and now it's healing on its own. I can feel my shattered bones and muscles slowly rejoining. The recovery rate increases by 10%, then 9%, then another 9%. He clutches his blushing face, his eyes turning into hearts, as he says ecstatically, this feels so good. Don't stop. The system displays another notification, consumed 3,000 contribution points. Executing basic upgrade exchange, Mang New Jue has been upgraded to expert level. He covers his mouth and screams like the main character in the Scream, thinking, the memories from my past life related to Mang New Jue, I've recovered them all. It turns out I was very strong in my past life too. But then the bonuses stop. He lets out a surprised ape and asks insistently, why did it stop? Keep going, Flame Seed. He raises his hand and presses on the flame, shouting, just exchange, freely, don't stop. I have a ton of contribution points. The system displays a message that hits him like a ton of bricks. Current remaining contribution points. 3. Insufficient contribution points. Cannot continue exchange. The system displays a message that hits him like a ton of bricks. Current remaining contribution points. 3 and 3. Insufficient contribution points. Cannot continue exchange. He then shakily holds up an IOU and says, help me upgrade Mang New Jue to master level first. I'll sign an IOU, okay? The system immediately replies, denied, the flame of civilization multiplies. The stronger the civilization, the stronger the firebearer. Please quickly achieve civilization to create contributions. Unlock more power and missions. He stands there with his hand raised, holding the IOU, a large bump on his head. Then he seems to remember something and wonders, it didn't even say how to get contribution points. A while later, the bell signaling the end of class rings. Teacher Nunghiem glances at him and sees that he is still holding the same stance without wavering. He nods in satisfaction and says, class dismissed. The three guys are so shocked, their faces contort as they exclaim, damn, he actually endured it. If you stand correctly, it's very beneficial for cultivating spirit energy and essence. Looks like the top-ranked Monsieur is about to make a comeback. At this moment, Monsieur squints his eyes and thinks, so hungry. The image in front of him suddenly blurs. He vaguely sees the silhouette of his chubby friend approaching as his inner voice speaks. I'm so hungry, my stomach is growling. Does this mean the flame seed's restoration of my body and awakening of skills consumes energy that I have to replenish myself? Just then, a large shadow flies towards him, like a bird, startling him and causing him to turn and look at the dark figure. And it's none other than his chubby friend, Monsieur's best friend, So Fai Hung. He clenches his fists and pounds on his chest, shouting, Siu. Then he grabs his arms and moves them up and down. The protagonist's body is like a doll, letting his friend do as he pleases. The friend happily exclaims, Monsieur, you dared to hide from me that you've practiced the Thap Lung Trang to such a masterful level. Monsieur lets him do it and thinks, damn, so it's So Fai Hung. After a period of being a doll, he puts his short, small arm over his friend's shoulder and says, hurry up, fatty bear. I forgot my money today. Treat me to a meal, okay? Tomorrow or the day after, I'll treat you to 2 meals. So Fai Hung turns to look at him confused. So Fai Hung immediately shoves his arm off and says disdainfully, are you for real? Since when were you so generous? This is definitely a bad sign. Shoved away, he smirks confidently and says, why would I lie to you? Hearing this, So Fai Hung frowns and stares at him intently. Then he slings his arm around his neck and says cheerfully, you're right. Besides, the whole class heard you. You wouldn't dare go back on your word. Caught off guard by the hug, the protagonist puffs out his cheeks. The scene shifts to a restaurant. Monsieur's mouth is covered in food. He holds chopsticks and slurps up noodles deliciously. And after finishing that bowl of noodles, it's tossed onto a towering stack of already eaten bowls. Then he happily chomps on 6 sausages at once. So Fai Hung stands there shouting, Monsieur, are you even human? You're a freaking livestock. You ate up 2 weeks of my allowance in one go. You know that. So Fai Hung looks like an angry black bear, huffing and puffing as he looks at him. Then he swings his claws at him and shouts, I'll fight you to the death. The protagonist, chewing on a sausage, turns to look at him. The mark of the flame seed appears in his eyes. He swings his hand and slaps his friend across the face, saying softly, don't be noisy. So Fai Hung is immediately sent flying, crashing hard into a tree and crying out, oh my god. He then stands up, tears streaming down his face, and whimpers. Just now the protagonist interrupts. It was an illusion. Hearing this, his friend immediately turns and runs away, shouting angrily, like hell, I'd believe that I'm going to class. The protagonist stands there with his hands in his pockets, watching his friends retreating back. As he turns to leave, his foot kicks a glass bottle. The glass bottle rolls next to another pile of trash nearby. He then notices a janitor sweeping trash, sighing as she works. Sigh, trash all over the place. More work for me today. He walks over to the pile of trash, picks up the glass bottle, and throws it into a nearby trash can. The system suddenly displays a notification. Helped others, promoted righteousness in Longthan City. Contribution points, +00001. Helped others, promoted righteousness in Longthan City. Contribution points, +00001. He throws the bottle in and reads the notification, wondering contribution points. It's that simple. He then heads back to class. So Fai Hung is standing on the stairs, waving and urging him on. Hurry up, class is about to start. He replies, coming. At the same time, 2 girls are also running towards the stairs. Because he's walking slowly and the 2 girls are running fast, a quick glance allows him to see everything he wants to see. So Fai Hung comes up beside him and taps his head, scolding, are you looking for death staring at them like that? What a pervert. The protagonist, dazed, ignores the scolding and says, fatty bear, you don't understand. Only now do I realize this normal life is truly worth fighting to protect. Hearing this, his friend looks up, blushes and replies, I really can't stand you. You're always so shamelessly calm. Then he turns to look at him and continues, stop looking. Did you really dream about killing that old demon Hiem and destroying Longthan City? What about me? Did I get to be a great general in your dream? As he says this, he blushes and drools in anticipation. Hearing his question, the protagonist frowns and replies, when did I destroy it? I just saw a few fragmented scenes. Then he looks at his friend's expectant face and says, as for you, well, his friend eagerly says, yeah. He awkwardly recalls the past life and thinks, should I tell Fatty Bear that in the end he was just a soldier on the front lines, or should I say that as monsters level up, more ferocious ones will appear, or that in the end, we didn't even make it past the tutorial before our doom was sealed. Thinking this, he slaps his forehead in helplessness. Then he lowers his head, clenches his fist and thinks, and mom and dad too. He then looks up at his friend and says, Fatty Bear, do you remember I used to dream of going to university, of becoming a superhuman, but you wanted to join the army to become a general. The two walk up to class with their arms around each other's shoulders. The friend says, it's not used to... We just talked about this yesterday, didn't we? If you want to go to university, the protagonist cuts him off. That's not important. What's important is that we will definitely achieve our dreams. Hearing that his friend grins and bumps his fist, saying, then let's strive to break through in the remaining 50 days, I'll help you. The protagonist also clenches his fist and bumps it back, saying, hey, okay. But internally, he thinks helplessly, it's better if I help you. After all, you died so tragically in the last life. The two stand there raising their fists high and declaring, the protagonist says, university entrance exam, become a superhuman. His friend says, join the army, become a general. After Monsieur and Sophie Hung grandly declare that one will go to university and the other will become a general, they arrive at the classroom. The other students file in. One female student enters, saying loudly, next period is literature class, it's finally here. That student then enters the class and excitedly talks to another girl. I have to read The Ballad of Mulan. I have to read Moonlight Over the Lotus Pond. Hurry up, I can't wait anymore. The other girl says, tears streaming down her face. Oh, Teacher Van, where are you? Oh, Teacher Huang, I miss you to death, man. Sieu is sitting at his desk indifferently watching the two girls talk. At the same time, out in the hallway, a figure has just come down the stairs. The person walks down the hall, stops right at his classroom door and opens it. The students immediately say excitedly, he's here, Teacher Huang is here. But the person who enters isn't Teacher Huang at all, it's Ta Hao Nian. He pushes up his glasses coolly and says, Teacher Huang is sick. Everyone line up and follow me to the self-study hall for review. The students who were eagerly awaiting Teacher Huang are displeased and complain, what this again? Give us back. Teacher Huang, give us back, our literature teacher. The whole class then follows him to the self-study hall. The protagonist and his friend walk at the back. The friend says, I heard that back on our home planet, Earth kids our age had over 20 literature classes a week. Those must have been such happy days. The protagonist replies, indeed, such happy days. Ta Hao Nian suddenly turns his head and looks back. It turns out he's looking at the protagonist and his friend. He steps aside, standing next to the neatly walking students, and shouts, hurry up, pick up the pace. Seeing him shout like that, Sophie Hung puffs his cheeks in annoyance and says, I hate this guy's pretentious act the most. Then he leans close to his friend's earpouts and whispers, do you know why that guy gave up the elite class and insists on being the president of a normal class like ours? The protagonist pricks up his ears to listen and immediately asks back, why? The friend replies, isn't it for the few cultivation resources the school gives to the class president? His family owns a private company, yet he still competes for resources with poor students like us. He's really scum. After hearing this, the protagonist lowers his eyes slightly and says, that's right. If it weren't for Ta Hao Nian relying on his uncle's connections to stay in the normal class, the position of class president would have belonged to you, Fatty Bear, with those resources. Just as he says this, the other guy seems to sense someone is bad-mouthing him, or perhaps he feels guilty. Or maybe he's just spiteful and wants to see what they're doing, so he glances back at them. Then he snaps his head back and shouts, what's all the noise in the back? Don't waste everyone's time. So Fai Hung, being called out for no reason, gets so angry he grinds his teeth. His whole body flares up and flames burn in his eyes as he wants to rush at the guy shouting, I have to teach this punk a lesson. The protagonist immediately puts a hand on his shoulder, stopping him and says, let's review first. We have plenty of time. His friend listens to him and doesn't go looking for trouble, but he's still standing behind him, so angry that a volcano is about to erupt. Monsieur stares at the other guy with a scrutinizing and thoughtful gaze. The class then arrives at the training center. The room his class enters is the gym. Ta Hao Hien speaks up. This is a self-study period. Everyone choose your own training exercise and get started. Then loudly warn, do not loiter. He and his friend also follow them in choosing what they want to practice. He walks up to a punching bag and thinks, starting from now, time to train hard. Finishing his thought, he clenches his fist tightly, aiming to deliver a powerful punch to the punching bag, looking very determined. But what a surprise! Although his punch looked powerful, it only made the bag shake slightly, as if he were just scratching an itch for it. He looks like a starving beggar on the verge of death, his cheeks so sunken they look like a skull with a bit of flesh still attached. He groans loudly. It's no use, I'm too hungry, he thinks to himself. To heal my internal injuries, all the energy in my body was completely consumed by the flame seed. The flame seed helps me recover my body and awaken skills, but it can't provide energy for the body. Right now, I'm like a tank that's run out of fuel. I need a large amount of cultivation resources to fill my fuel tank. Some female students, seeing him looking like a withered corpse, slowly sliding to the ground, gossip, what a pity Monsieur used to have the potential to become a superhuman. Ta Hao Hien, who is currently lifting weights with one hand, glares at him and shouts, Monsieur, If you're not going to train, then get out of the way. Let the students with superpowers use the equipment. So Fai Hung walks over to him, lets him lean on him as they walk, and looking at the withered Man Xiu says, "You've been a weakling for a while now. Recovery takes time." The protagonist then goes and leans against a corner of the room, saying, "I'm not." So Fai Hung, while punching the sandbag, says, "Don't tell me you've forgotten even the basic Mang Nu King after a year of not practicing." The protagonist doesn't reply, just looks at him with a dazed expression and a gaunt face. But his friend thinks he's being mocked, so he turns to him, points at himself, and asks, "Monsieur, are you saying my training is terrible?" The protagonist widens his eyes and replies loudly, "It's not that it's a completely useless effort." Hearing this, his friend picks his ear, glares at him, and asks loudly, "I'm your brother, and you're still acting all high and mighty." The protagonist replies, "Right, don't misunderstand, I'm not talking about you. I mean the power-releasing techniques now, they're all." Before he can finish, his friend cuts in, "They're all trash, right, brother? I think you're being a bit shameless today." As he finishes speaking, he spews out a stream of sparkling, starlit essence. The protagonist immediately stands up as if an idea has struck him. He beckons to his friend and says, "Come on, let's go to the bathroom." The two then head to the men's restroom. Monsieur furtively looks around to see if anyone is there. Then once he's sure no one is around, he slams the door shut. So Fai Hung panics and asks loudly, "Monsieur, what do you want to do?" The protagonist looks at him with a perverted expression, smirks and says, "Hurry up, take off your clothes, let me study your muscles." After Monsieur and So Fai Hung go into the toilet, and he tells his friend to take off his clothes with a perverted look. His friend backs away in fear, pressing himself against the wall and shouting, "Monsieur, what on earth do you want? If I fight back, you won't be able to handle it, you know." The protagonist lowers his head slightly, glances at him and says, "Just now you were channeling the Mang Nu King power down to your flank. You felt a surge of power spreading outwards, right?" Hearing him ask this, his friend is startled and widens his eyes in shock. Then he crouches down, looks at his friend's leg and says, "When you stomp on the ground, you feel a sharp, needle-like pain from the sole of your foot to your knee right." As he asks, he pokes his friend's leg. His friend's jaw drops. He looks down at him in disbelief and exclaims, "How did you know that?" The protagonist stands up, looks at him and replies, "You haven't grasped the true meaning of Mang Nu King at all. Half of your power is running rampant inside your body. If you keep practicing like this, getting osteoporosis would be getting off lightly." Hearing this, his friend turns into a bear, throws himself to the ground, hugs his leg and cries, "Monsieur, you have to save me." The protagonist is startled by his friend's actions and stares with his mouth agape. Then he stands up straight, looks at his friend calmly and says, "Come on, show me a move." He then activates the flame seed mode. After that, a loud and refreshing massage sound comes from the bathroom. After a while, they both come out of the restroom. The friend excitedly swings his arms and says, "Monsieur, those adjustments you just made increased my punching power by at least 3%. The protagonist, looking a bit tired, smiles and replies, "Go try it and you'll see." Then the flame seed suddenly appears. He looks up at it in confusion and asks Flame Seed. The system displays a notification again. Guided normal citizen. So Fai Hung in the basic Mang Nu Kuen skill. Learning progress 10%. Normal citizen has grown stronger. Longthan City's overall combat power has increased. Congratulations. Master of Civilization on growing stronger. Contribution points plus 110. After reading, he lets out a confused, "Huh." He thinks in confusion. So teaching the martial arts I exchanged from the Flame Seed to the citizens of Longthan City counts as a contribution. If I can teach future martial arts to the entire city's population, making everyone 100 times stronger than in the nightmare, then I can defeat all those shitty creatures from the other world. This is the true meaning of civilization growing stronger and stronger. The system displays a new notification. Congratulations to the Firebearer for making first-time contributions to civilization. A upgrade, Mang Nu Jue, from expert to master. Level cost 756. Contribution B, Awaken Basic Gunmanship, cost 3100. Contribution C, Awaken Bar Van Kin, cost 1500 contribution. After reading the system panel, he scratches his head and says hesitantly, "Mang Nu Jue and Bar Van Kin. One is hard, one is soft. One is an upgrade, the other is an awakening. Which one to choose?" After a long moment, he raises a finger and says, "It's you." And he selects option B, Basic Gunmanship. He smirks menacingly and says, "If it's a free gift, of course I have to choose the most expensive one. It's a no-brainer." Then he licks his lips and looks at Sophie, hung with a cunning glint in his eyes. "Fatty Bear, don't worry. I'll definitely help you get into the army." Hearing his name called and being looked at with that expression, Sophie Hung jolts. He's so scared he turns into a bear and thinks, that smile is terrifying. The two then return to the training room. So Fai Hung covers his mouth and whispers to him, "Monsieur, where did you learn such a strange technique?" The protagonist puts his hands in his pockets, smirks at him and replies, "We'll talk later. First, go test your maximum punching power." Hearing this, his friend grins excitedly and replies, "Okay." First he takes a deep breath to calm himself, and he channels all his power into his fist. Just as he's about to punch, a loud voice rings out. "Stop, who gave you permission to touch the power testing machine?" This startles both of them. The person is none other than Ta Haon-hien, the model class president. He pushes up his glasses and looks at the two of them. "You just got to class and you already snuck out with Monsieur. You only came back 20 minutes later. Whispered a bit, and now you want to use the machine? Did I give you permission?" Hearing this, So Fai Hung gets furious, turns around and shouts at him. "Mr. Class President, do you really think you're the teacher? My Mangnu King has just had a breakthrough. Even a teacher wouldn't stop me. What are you meddling for?" The other guy scoffs and retorts, "I saw your power-releasing stance. It was all twisted and bent, far from the standard of Mangnu King. You definitely haven't even mastered the dual fists, let alone had a breakthrough. If you really want to test the punching machine, maybe you should go to the side and properly learn what Mangnu King is first." So Fai Hung is now so angry, veins are popping on his forehead. He rushes towards the guy wanting to fight him and shouts, "What's wrong with my Mangnu King?" Before he can move or finish speaking, the protagonist quickly steps in front of him and says, "If that's the case, why don't you? Class President, demonstrate the standard Mangnu King for everyone to learn from." Hearing this, the guy lowers his eyes and scoffs. Then he takes off his watch and confidently walks to the punching machine saying, "You watch closely, this is what a real Mangnu King is." As he finishes, he channels his power and lunges forward, delivering a powerful punch to the machine, so strong that the machine is pushed back slightly. The screen then starts displaying the punching power. Stopping at 225 kilo, a female student can't help but praise. Last time the class president had to try so hard to set the class record. This time he did it with just one swing. Another girl says, "The class president is improving so fast, he's sure to get into a prestigious university." Another replies, "And the class president's build is smaller than that fatty bear's, but his punching power is several times stronger." Ta Haon-hien stands there, putting his watch back on, enjoying the adoring cheers from the blushing girls who are praising him. Then he turns to look at the protagonist, and his friend smirks and says, "Did you two see that clearly?" Another student standing behind, So Fai Hung shivers and says worriedly, "Hung, let's test it together later, okay?" The friend grinds his teeth and glares at that student without saying a word. That student doesn't give up and turns to the protagonist. "Monsieur, you should talk to him too." The protagonist also says nothing, just glances at that student. He then walks up and pats his friend's back saying, "Brother Bear, it's all up to you." At this point his friend is extremely angry. Ta Haon-hien stands in front of the machine, blocking it with his arms, and says loudly, "Step back. Test it with the other students before class ends." Seeing this, his friend angrily shouts, "Get out of the way." The other guy doesn't back down either, raising his hands to block and shouting, "Step back." The student from before covers his face and says, "We're doomed. Brother Bear is in for it this time." The protagonist glances at him as if looking at a busybody. His friend is now so angry, he internally turns into a bear, opening his mouth wide to reveal long, sharp fangs. He grabs the other guy's arm, shoves him aside, and roars, "I said, get out of the way." Thrown aside, the class president wonders in disbelief. When did he get so strong? He is then thrown backward in astonishment. His friend channels all his inner power and swings his arm with a mighty grunt. The class president, sitting on the ground, affected by the force, bites his lip in disbelief and exclaims, "What a powerful fist." And then with a grunt, his friend punches the testing machine with all his might. While the class president's punch had pushed the machine back, his friend's punch sends the machine flying off the ground. After So Fai Hung punches the machine, not only does it get pushed back a considerable distance, but it also flies into the air before crashing back down. The counter starts spinning wildly, stopping at the number 782 kilola. The worried student from before is now wide-eyed and open-mouthed, shouting, he surpassed the class president, a new class record. So Fai Hung suddenly turns into a bear, lets out a confused "huh," and looks around at everyone, a giant question mark exploding over his head. Monsieur immediately seizes the opportunity, points at his friend, and says loudly, "Fatty Bear, you're a cheater. You dared to hide from me that you've practiced Super Mangnu King so well. You even crushed the class president." The three girls who were just cheering for Ta Haon-hien now ask in unison, "Super Mangnu King." The protagonist bites his nails and says, "Even with money you can't hire a good teacher for Super Mangnu King. Increasing your score by 12 points is equivalent to getting 12 more points on the university entrance exam." Hearing him say this, the three girls are so shocked their faces turn pale. Then he makes a puppy dog face, turns to his friend and says, "Brother Hung, will you teach me Super Mangnu King?" His friend looks at him in confusion and asks me while thinking, "But didn't you just teach this to me?" Then he walks up beside his friend, crosses his arms and says, "All right, I know the time before the exam is very important to you. How about this? I'll use cultivation resources to pay for the tuition, so you won't be at a loss." His friend understands the hidden meaning in his words, his bear-like mouth agape as he thinks, "Damn, is Monsieur trying to make money? Well, I guess I'll have to play along." Monsieur then puts his arm around his friend's shoulder and cries, "Brother Hung, save me." The rest of the students in the class also gather around him shouting, "Brother Hung, us too. Please save us." The protagonist then steps forward, rubbing his chin and saying, "Might as well be hanged for a sheep as a lamb. Why don't we form a Super Mang New King study group? Everyone can pay you with resources. You can also showcase your true strength." The surrounding students also show their agreement with him. They all raise their hands and shout, "I'm in, I want to join too. Me too, brother, hung me too." The very people who once supported Tahonian are now eagerly wanting to join the class, represented by the protagonist. They don't care that he's sitting right behind them. He frowns in annoyance, grinds his teeth and scoffs. The system displays a message again. Your proposal has received everyone's agreement. The spirit of learning is more enthusiastic and better results can be achieved. In the near future, you will contribute more to civilization. Contribution points plus 111. Seeing this, he smirks, having achieved his goal. He then covers his mouth with his hands and says, "So Fai Hung is too modest. Such a good selfless person and so strong. Why didn't the teacher choose him as class president in the first place?" As soon as he finishes speaking, everyone turns to look at Tahon Hien, who is sitting right there with looks of utter disgust. He's so angry he frowns internally, screaming his name Man Xiu. The protagonist then walks up to him, extends his hand as if to help him up, and says, "Class president, I was just talking nonsense. Don't take it to heart, okay?" But internally he says with disgust, "It makes me want to vomit." The other guy doesn't need his help and stands up on his own. Not at all. A class president is just here to contribute for everyone. On the surface he smiles benevolently, but in his heart he utters threats. The university entrance exam is coming soon. I will definitely make sure you never get into university in this lifetime. By now it's late afternoon outside. The sunset light bathes the entire sky, making everything it touches look truly beautiful. The scene is incredibly poetic. And at this very moment on the school's rooftop, the figures of him and his friend are standing there talking, so Fai Hung speaks up, "Man Xiu, you take it all. You've missed out this whole year, so you need it more." The protagonist, hugging, clamping and holding the resources the students paid to join the Superman New King group, replies, "We'll split it. 30-70. No refusals." His friend, also holding a pile of resources, asks, "So tell me, where did you learn this technique?" The protagonist shoves the resources into his backpack and evasively replies, "I found it on the Omnipotent Science Forum. But this Superman New King, this time I've studied it thoroughly, so it's fine." In his head he thinks, "Sorry, fatty bear, I can't tell you about these things." He rubs his chin, looks at his friend and says, "If you're worried about any mistakes, you can just tell everyone this is just a trial version. It's either a bug or they don't have to join. It was just a small contribution anyway. No need to force it." Hearing this, his friend immediately walks to the stairwell door, waving to him as he says, "Okay, I'll tell them that. Then I'm heading home first. You should go home early too." After saying goodbye, the protagonist slings the backpack full of resources over his shoulder, turns to look back and says, "Longthan City." He stands on the rooftop railing, hands on his hips, looking down at the entire city, thinking, "Before I didn't like the fog, because the fog sealed this entire city. The buildings in Longthan City are too dense, the streets too narrow, the pressure of cultivation too great. I was like any other young person. I secretly read many books, magazines, and watched movies about Earth. Students there only had to study 2 subjects a week, but we had dozens of literature and math classes. Adults there only had to work 8 hours a day. They earned a lot of money, could buy a house, eat and dress well. But Earth is a homeland we can never return to. And the nightmare is a tomorrow that has yet to arrive," as he thinks tears of sorrow stream down his face as he recalls the memories of his past life. As tears fall, he looks at everything and thinks, "What's before me now is my only home. I must strive at all costs." At this moment, the flame seed suddenly appears. He looks at it and thinks, Mang New Jue is being transmitted to normal citizens. The overall combat power of Longthan City has increased. The system displays a notification. Mang New King is being popularized among commoners, and the overall combat effectiveness of Longthan City has increased. Contribution points plus the USC 3, contribution points plus EMWAS 1, contribution points plus EMWAS 1. He looks at the system panel and says ecstatically, "The feeling of making a contribution is truly wonderful." Suddenly, the Longthan City public address system blares, "Attention all citizens! Attention all citizens!" Startled by the announcement, he whips around with a huh. The broadcast continues. "Attention all citizens! The latest news from the city's meteorological bureau tonight, there will be a thick fog, and monsters will infiltrate the city. The monsters are mainly expected to appear in one area, forecasted to be the metallurgical workshop in North City. The Survival Committee orders the Long Kwong Corporation to immediately prepare for Level 1 combat. Other areas prepare for Level 3 combat. All citizens, please listen carefully, raise your vigilance, and prepare for battle. Always remember we are the Earth Expeditionary Force. Earth and we are one. Longthan City must win." After hearing this announcement, his pupils dilate as he thinks a monster attacked tonight. Mansiu is now walking out of the school gate. Outside is the bus. Because he stayed on the rooftop for a long time to listen to the announcement, by the time he got down, the bus had already started moving. He panics and chases after it, shouting, wait for me to get on." He chases the bus and gets a face full of black smoke from the exhaust, causing him to cough violently 3 times. Tahan Hien, sitting in a private car, crosses his arms and watches him chase the bus, smirking and thinking, ha, low class. After chasing the bus for a long stretch, he finally gets on. He wearily grips a handrail and sighs in his mind. Finally caught up. After a while, the bus stops and an announcement is made. Ho Lam District Station has arrived. Passengers, please exit through the rear door. He immediately pushes through the crowd to get off, shouting as he squeezes through, let me off. Once safely on the ground, he sighs in relief and says, finally home. He then puts his hands in his pockets and strides home, thinking as he walks. When I walk through this dilapidated market, I think of all the warm memories. The market is crowded and noisy with the calls of vendors. Fresh pig liver. Buy some for your kids to eat, and they'll get 100 on every subject. All you need is 1 handful to punch a monster to death. Uncle, buy a piece, won't you? Homegrown jade melons here, even tastier than the honey peaches from Earth. If it's not sweet, you don't pay. Come on over, hearing these sounds, he thinks to himself. These familiar, intimate sounds, they make me feel so real. He walks happily, taking in the noise, the calls of freshly caught snails here. Very fresh, or the sounds of parents scolding their children. Go home and cultivate properly. Stop reciting those tang and song poems every day. What's the use of that? He closes his eyes, smiles, and thinks, this is truly the smoke and fire of the human world. Suddenly, a voice rings out, catching his attention. He turns to look at the person who spoke. Brother, man, come help me. I'm so tired I could die. The voice belongs to a girl wearing the same uniform as him, struggling to carry a large bucket of fish. He quickly turns his head to look at the girl and calls out, Jia Thao. Then suddenly he clutches his head in pain, his face darkening and his pupils dilating. He sees a dark scene before him with a hand that has long, sharp claws. He thinks this nightmare again. In front of him is a girl with demon wings on her back, reaching her hand with long, sharp claws towards him, Tio Thao. Wherever she goes, she brings an endless dark night. The demoness of darkness. Then that person steps on his face with her foot. She looks down at him, laughs, and says, brother. And when he opens his eyes again, he sees Jia Thao's face in front of him. She has her hands on her hips, tilting her head as she looks at him and says, brother, why do you look like a cat that's seen a mouse? As she speaks, she pushes him away. He finally calms down, his face contorted, as he looks down at her and thinks, twisted, I can't believe you're this kind of little sister. Then he grabs her by the shoulders and says loudly, Tiu Thao, tell me if you had power, would you trample me under your feet? She smiles gently and replies, oh my goodness, my dearest elder brother, what on earth are you thinking? How could I do such a cruel thing? But internally, she laughs perversely, hey, you guessed right. If I had power, the first thing I'd do is trample you under my feet, you wicked brother. The harder I stomp, the better. Ha ha ha. He looks at her frowning and thinks, something's not right. In the nightmare Tio, Thao turned into the demoness of darkness. There must be a reason, but what is the reason? Out loud he asks, so let me ask you something. Are you dissatisfied with me in any way? She tilts her head and smiles gently. How could I be, brother? How could I possibly be dissatisfied with you? But internally, she's so angry, she turns into a demon and screams, what a waste of breath. Of course I'm dissatisfied, you wicked brother. Hearing this, he places his hand on her head and ruffles her hair. She immediately bristles with anger, smoke practically coming from her as she bends over and yells, brother, what did I do to you? Are you bullying me again? He walks over, picks up the bucket of fish, and starts walking, glancing back at her and replying, does a brother need a reason to bully his little sister? In his head he thinks, who asked you to turn into the demoness of darkness and trample all over me? While I can still hit you now, I'll hit you as much as I want, and we'll deal with it later. She stands behind him, her cheeks puffed out in anger, swinging her arms to show her displeasure. As he walks, he thinks, since I've returned from the nightmare, I will absolutely not let you become the demoness of darkness that terrifies others. I will make you the happiest little princess, the most loved in this entire world. She chases after him, her eyes burning with anger as she shouts, I hate you the most, brother. He teases back, but I like it when you hate how I look and can't do anything about it. Hearing this, she screams in fury, I'm going to punish you, and I'm going to tell Mum and Dad. He smirks and replies, go ahead, I know you love your big brother, I can take it. Hearing that, she blushes and shouts, who loves you, you wicked person? When they get home, she immediately runs to her mother in tears. Mom, he bullied me on the way home. Mom, hurry and deal with him. As for him, he walks in and says, Mom, I'm home. Tio Thao inherited her beauty from his mother. The mother walks out leaning on a cane, holding a plate of hot food, and smiles gently at him. Tio Thao only knows how to blame her brother. Hurry and eat some fried spring rolls. I just made them, they're still hot. Seeing his mother, who had been long dead in his past life, his pupils dilate. He looks at her with both tenderness and sorrow and calls out Mum. She holds the plate of spring rolls out to him and says, here, try one, son. Trembling, he reaches for the plate, takes one, and brings it to his mouth. As he chews, he trembles and cries. He is simply overwhelmed with happiness at being able to see his mother right in front of him, and even getting to eat food she cooked herself. This is truly the greatest happiness for him. Not understanding why he's crying, she asks gently. This child, why are you crying? Just from eating a spring roll. Tia Thao stands beside her, her mouth covered in spring roll crumbs. Her cheeks are puffed with food. She sticks her tongue out and teases him. I told you, brother's brain is broken. Suddenly his father, having just returned from somewhere, throws the door open and says, so disrespectful, I could hear you talking about your brother from outside. Hurry and turn on the TV. Let's watch the live stream of the battle situation. The girl with another spring roll in her mouth quickly grabs the remote, turns on the TV and replies, yes. As soon as the TV is on, a voice is heard, latest news. At 8:50 p.m. tonight, the Army's assault squad is about to complete the deployment of the Northern Front. This steel cancer mecha is our Longthan City's newest and most advanced war machine. The otherworldly monsters will finally be submerged in Longthan City's flood of steel. The screen cuts to a discussion panel. Two people are on screen. The host in a suit points to the man in a white shirt beside him and says, this is Professor Nu Ka Chan Dong from the Biology Department of Longthan University. Next we invite Professor Ka to explain a bit for us. The professor says, all right, I'll just say a few simple words. Recently there have been 3 instances of thick fog descending. The main invading force has been the hard-shelled type of monster. Tia Thao, sitting cross-legged on a chair, watching the screen, hears the professor and says, the teacher has explained the weaknesses of hard-shelled monsters countless times already. Her eyes are bored and uninterested as she nibbles on a spring roll and says, change the channel. She then switches to another channel. The screen changes again. She looks at the screen and thinks, that's Longthan City's #1. Her mother stands behind her smiling gently and says, every time Tu Thao sees Grandmaster Lavo, she becomes so infatuated. Her father also stands beside her mother, leans over and says with a smile, she's a grown girl now, ha ha ha. The girl's mouth is agape, drooling, her eyes shining like stars as she thinks, at least it's a 200 square meter room, I want to live in there so badly. Suddenly the TV shakes and then goes black, the screen completely dark. The ceiling fan also starts to shake violently. He runs quickly behind her and says, be careful. He clenches his teeth, frowns and says, the monsters are here. The neighborhood's public address system blares, Thien Phuc Uyen residential area, activating key defense point. All power is prioritized for the defense facilities. People on the street immediately start running in panic. Thien Phuc Uyen residential area, key defense point activation complete. The broadcast continues to blare. Warning, warning, intrusion alert, intrusion alert. And at this moment the monsters have swarmed into Longthan City. They are monstrous beetles. Their numbers truly immense, so many that it can only be called an insect swarm attack. After the monsters swarm into Longthan City, war mechs controlled by humans are deployed to eliminate them. The mechs have 2 very large gun barrels, continuously firing at the monster horde. One after another they are hit and blown to pieces. But their numbers are truly immense. As soon as one dies, another immediately takes its place. They just open their mouths wide and charge forward in unison. The war machine operators announced over the loudspeaker raising the bunker. All power is prioritized for the bunkers and high-voltage towers. Following the command, the bunkers immediately rise from the ground. Once fully exposed, they unfold 5 fan-like blades, revealing a receiver spire, and begin to draw in energy. Once enough energy is accumulated, it releases a wide-area energy blast, sending the nearby monsters flying. Man Xie, inside the house, uses binoculars to watch the situation outside, thinking in disbelief. So many of them. It's a good thing I drank all the nutritional supplements beforehand. I don't know if I can withstand this battle. Just then his father throws the door open from outside and anxiously asks loudly, Monsieur, what's the battle situation like? He turns to look at his father and replies, it's stable for now, we're holding on. At this moment an old woman with silvery white hair and her pet dog walk in saying, you two, just keep watch outside. Just leave to Tam and her mother to me and Dinah, don't worry, and that is his grandmother. As soon as the dog enters the room, it runs around playfully with Tia Thao. He turns his head to look at her and says, Grandma Vuong, you be careful too. Hearing this, she angrily walks over, pinches his ear and scolds, very clever young man, are you looking down on my old bones? Huh? Wincing in pain, he replies loudly, Grandma Vuong, I was wrong. I know you'll be fine. Please let me go. Sob, sob. She continues, I remember that year. But before she can finish, both grandmother and grandson stop what they're doing due to a powerful tremor from outside. The barrels of the war machines seem to have reached their limit. The monsters have somehow broken through the bunkers in a short time. One even climbs onto a bunker, opening its horrifying maw with large, sharp, terrifying teeth. Suddenly, a red flame erupts from its back, creating an explosion. All of them then unfold their wings and start flying, seemingly wanting to attack over a wider and higher area. His father, watching from inside the house, sees this and his face darkens in disbelief. A mutated type of the black armored flame beetle, the flying flame beetle. He immediately takes out a gun, hands it to his son, and takes one for himself, saying, Assure mutated insects are not easy to deal with. Let them get closer before we engage. It might not be an easy night for me. The son immediately takes the gun from his father and replies, I know, Dad. Every house has a small hole for observation and for shooting back at the monsters. The monsters just charge towards the residential buildings. Of course, any that fly too close will be met with bullets. His father seems to have just emptied a magazine while reloading. He says with a frown, these insects are tough to deal with. Hitting them is just a matter of luck. The son is also aiming at the monsters, thinking, if this continues, I'm afraid many more people will die tonight. Suddenly, the flame seed appears before his eyes. He is startled and thinks it's the flame seed. The system displays a notification. It reads, do you want to start the Alien Insect Hunter combat mission? For the first time, Black Armored Flame, Beetle 00110, Flying Flame, Beetle 003, first time combat mission reward, 1500 contribution value, and the option to upgrade any basic skill by 1 level. He immediately widens his eyes, thinking start. As soon as the thought forms, he activates the basic gunmanship skill. His entire body feels charged with 100% energy as he gently places his finger on the trigger. Grandma Vuong comes over, places a hand on his shoulder and says, Sieur, were you frightened or should I? He doesn't answer her, just tilts his head and aims. And with a loud bang, the first bullet is fired. As the bullet leaves, the casing falls, and a new round immediately takes its place. And another bang. The next bullet also flies out. His finger on the trigger keeps pressing up and down repeatedly. 3 bullets fly out in succession, and 3 casings fall from the gun simultaneously, and his bullets, carrying immense force and power, hit the monster. The system displays a notification. Flying Flame Beetle contribution. Value +1, 1, normal level. Basic gunmanship proficiency 0, 8% reaching 25%, and the monster, as indicated by the system, is shot down, crashing headfirst to the ground. Seeing this, Grandma Vuong gives his head a firm pat and a thumbs up, saying, not bad, Sieur. Those 3 shots of yours are not much worse than when your grandpa was alive, you know. He grins, enjoying both the pat and her praise. Then, blushing with delight, he turns to look at her and says, are you really my biological grandma? Then he smirks and thinks, still got distracted by Grandma Vuong. Those 3 consecutive shots just now could have directly blown that beast to bits. He then kneels on one knee, props himself up, raises his gun, and continues to fight. He continuously takes down one after another. The system accordingly displays continuous notifications. Congratulations on completing your first kill. For protecting civilization, you have made a contribution. Contribution value +1, 9. Proficiency Ivoro, 9% reaching 55%. Contribution value +110. Proficiency +% reaching 53%. Contribution value +3. Proficiency 2, 5% reaching 58%. He smiles, looking at everything before him, and thinks, the feeling of the gun from my past life is slowly coming back. His father also turns to look at him and praises, Sieur, your gunmanship is even better than mine now. Hearing this, he also turns to look at his father and replies, I was injured last year, so it was hard to practice martial arts. That's why I practiced gunmanship instead. His father pats him on the shoulder and says, yes, it's been tough on you, son. He says, maintain this state, perform well tonight. The son replies, yes. The two then enter a combat stance, looking truly cool, and the father and son continue to fire, eliminating the monsters. No matter how many of them the father and son shoot, others keep taking their place. Their numbers are unbelievably large. The casings from their guns also pile up. The father smiles at his son and says, Sieur, there probably won't be any major problems anymore. Just watch your health a bit. The son, aiming with his eyes closed, replies, Dad, I'm fine. Then he suddenly seems to remember something, and his inner voice speaks, that's not right. There's still one more terrifying, mysterious monster that hasn't appeared. He immediately moves his scope back and forth. He thinks I have to find it. And suddenly his father seems to see it, and his eyes widen. And he's right. In his scope, the figure of a monster appears seemingly larger, more terrifying and stronger than the other insects. A stream of blood seems to form a magical circle around its body. His face darkens in fear as he looks at it and thinks, that's it, it's the one from the dream attacking this place. The pack leader monster from his past life memories had utterly destroyed the area he was in, and then it flies down to a nearby tall rooftop. As soon as it lands, it transforms into a woman with demon wings on her back. Back in reality, when his bullets hit the pack leader monster, instead of piercing it or going through, they hit its skin and are deflected in another direction. He clenches his teeth, frowns at it, and thinks, as expected, with my current basic gunmanship level, I can't even injure it. To deal with it, I'll need at least master level or even perfect level. The pack leader monster from above shoots down a beam of light, seemingly transferring power to the other insects. The armored people standing in the bunker below look up in confusion and say, these insects seem off. Be careful, that big one in the sky is definitely a problem. After receiving the power boost, the insect horde aggressively charges towards everyone. The commander immediately shouts, everyone focus, stop the flying flame. Beetles, don't let them get near the residential buildings. And everyone immediately unleashes a continuous barrage of fire at the insects. He inside the house also aims and fires continuously. Thinking I won't let you get what you want, the system displays a notification. Flying flame, Beetle 2/3, contribution value +3, Basic gunmanship proficiency increased by 2%, reaching 61%. Black Beetle 2 to 10, contribution value +2. Basic gunmanship proficiency increased by 1%, reaching 62%. Black Beetle 4 solid 10, contribution value +4. Basic gunmanship proficiency increased by 2%, reaching 64%. Black Beetle 5 solid 10, contribution value +2. Basic gunmanship proficiency increased by 1%, reaching 65%. He widens his eyes, looks at it, and thinks, I must upgrade my basic gunmanship before these monsters fully awaken. And the pack leader monster then reveals a pair of bright red cat-like eyes on its head. A person leaning against a wall glances at it and says in disbelief, another super beast. Another person presses their hand to their ear to relay information to the command center, Thien Fu. Uyen has detected an unknown beast. I repeat, Thien Fu. Uyen has detected an unknown type of flying hard-shell demon beast, requesting superhuman support. Damn it! The communication device is affected during the peak of the blood moon, every time he says angrily, slamming his hand on a nearby metal crate. After seeing the pack leader monster, his father looks at him worriedly and shouts, Monsieur, quickly, take your mother and everyone and run. That giant thing in the sky might be a super beast. The son is still kneeling beside his father, firing his gun relentlessly. He replies, Dad, you take everyone and go. I'll stay here. Hearing this, his father exclaims, Son. The son closes one eye to aim and says, I know what this beast is. The super beast opens its mouth wide, creating a fireball surrounded by golden streams of light, as if channeling power into the sphere. It immediately fires the fireball down at where the people are standing, causing a massive explosion. The remaining people don't give up. They stand there aiming their guns at the horrifying black smoke and say, the fog is surrounding it. We can't get a clear shot. Concentrate all firepower. Take down this super beast's head. When the smoke clears, they can finally see it. The commander shouts, fire. Everyone immediately unleashes a barrage of fire at it. The super beast doesn't seem to care much about the people shooting at it, as the bullets don't seem to have any effect. It just flies high above, shooting its energy down and transferring it to the monsters below. And the monsters, as if receiving power from the pack leader, go into a frenzy and charge down. The insects compete to fire powerful energy beams down at the buildings below, strong enough to shatter the walls. With their homes being destroyed, people panic. A father hugs his young daughter and says, Daughter, run quickly. The little girl, terrified, burrows into her father's arms and cries, Wah! And a monster slips through an opening, opens its mouth, and is about to eat the father and daughter. Suddenly, a beam of green light pierces through its head. It turns out a member of the Saber Squad appeared just in time, killing the monster and saving the father and daughter. The person stands on its corpse and shouts, Saber Squad, prepare! We absolutely cannot let the black-armored beetles approach the residential buildings. Everyone, weapons in hand, rushes to eliminate the monsters, one by one saying in unison, it's the defense team. Monsieur is still relentlessly aiming at the insects. The system displays a notification. Congratulations to the firebearer on completing the combat mission. For the first time, Alien Insect Gunner has earned a reward of 1500 contribution value and can upgrade any one basic skill. Do you wish to upgrade now? Reading the system panel, he smirks and thinks, wait a bit before exchanging. First, I'll pour the contribution value into basic gunmanship and max out the proficiency. The system displays a red notification again. Congratulations, your 100% proficiency in normal level basic gunmanship has been upgraded to expert level. Congratulations, your 100% proficiency in expert level basic gunmanship has been upgraded to master level. After getting what he wanted, he smirks and his eyes widen as he thinks, exchange the reward. Upgrade master level basic gunmanship by 1 level. The system displays a notification. Confirmed first-time combat mission reward. A powerful energy surges up from below, enveloping his body. It lifts his body high into the air for him to absorb the energy. The system displays a golden notification again. Congratulations. Your basic gunmanship has been upgraded to perfect level. Golden powder can strengthen the motor functions of other armored bodies. The head part of the shell is full of sensory tracheae. Extremely sensitive, he looks up and sees the different parts of the pack leader monster, each part rated with stars according to its strength or weakness. He observes and analyzes for a long moment, then smirks confidently and says, Your weakness, I've found it. As he finishes, he swings his hand to grab an armor-piercing round, loads it, and thinks, now, come at me, you beast. He inserts a new magazine into his gun and confidently waits for it. But suddenly something flashes past. He turns his head in confusion and sees it's Tu Thao. She's holding a small pink gun and shouting, Brother, I'm here to help you. And as her bottom lightly kisses the ground, she cries out in pain, Ah! He looks at her in alarm, bites his lip and thinks, Damn it, I forgot to change the gun for her again. In his mind, he remembers the scene of her holding the pink gun and showing it off to him. Aren't I amazing, he had said at the time. No, this gun is too dangerous. I'll help you keep it safe. At this moment, he quickly turns his head to look outside, thinking in disbelief. Didn't I put away her self-made gun? How did she get it out again? The pack leader monster, which had been looking in another direction, suddenly snaps its entire body around to look at him. He sees its two eyes staring intently at him and thinks, "Crap, I've been discovered." Its gaze is fixed precisely on the hole in his house's wall. Then it immediately rushes towards him at the speed of light. After the pack leader monster spots Mansu, it immediately charges at him. He quickly runs over, grabs Teothao, who is beside him, and shouts, "Careful!" The pack leader monster smashes hard into the house wall, causing it to dent inwards, but it still holds together without shattering. It flies back again to gain momentum, then smashes into it once more. This time the entire wall shatters clearly, revealing him holding her and comforting her. He turns his head to look at it, his eyes wide with fear. He remembers his past life. Teothao had helped to eliminate monsters, but the loud gunshots had instead attracted that terrifying demon. His mother was seriously injured and hospitalized. After that, a series of misfortunes occurred. Teothao was extremely ashamed. Perhaps that was when she fell into obsession. He immediately picks up his gun turns and begins to confront it, thinking, "This is the beast that caused the ruin of the homeland where I lived for 10 years. It harmed my family. This life I will not let that nightmare happen again." Finishing his thought, he opens his mouth wide, frowns deeply, and fires a bullet at it with immense force and energy. And that bullet pierces straight into its golden wing, creating a crack on it. It opens its mouth and screams in pain. He doesn't stop continuing to fire at it. His father, standing beside him, looks at him worriedly and says, "Asio, are you crazy?" He continues to aim at the monster and replies loudly, "Dad, trust me." And the pack leader monster is now completely enraged. It opens its mouth wide, its long drool-covered tongue, creating a fireball. The light of the flame seed flashes in his eyes. He stares at it and says, "I've been waiting for this move of yours." As he finishes, he fires a bullet carrying all his energy and power, and that bullet speeds towards the fireball. And with a massive boom, the bullet and the fireball collide, creating a huge explosion. He shouts, "Die, you beast!" and the monster immediately crashes down onto the floor of his house, spewing blood. It is then thrown aside, its head planted straight into the ground. The pack leader monster has been completely eliminated by him, its mouth full of blood as it lies dead and flattened on the ground. The members of the Saber Squad and the defense team look at the monster's corpse in disbelief and say, "The super beast has been eliminated. It's old man from 704. He used to be the army's sharpshooter. Truly, the older the ginger, the spicier it gets." One of them places a hand on their ear to transmit a message to everyone. "Everyone charge. Eliminate all those little ones." Everyone immediately regains their morale, rushes forward, and shouts, "Charge." After killing the monster, he drops his gun. His whole body falls backward, his strength completely drained as his nose bleeds. He falls in a daze, thinking, "I did it." And with a thud, his entire body slams onto the floor. His father's worried face appears before him. He is saying a lot, but the son can't hear anything. He thinks that was perfect. In the moment the monster used its ultimate move, I took advantage of it using the spirit, energy diffusing bullets in its body, using its own power to kill it. At this moment he is being held in his father's arms. The painful images of the past slowly shatter. He thinks, as expected, the nightmare can be broken, the future can be changed. Fate is finally in my own hands. Teothao, crying, runs over with a first aid kit and shouts, "Brother, don't die." She sobs tragically, holding a bottle of medicine and feeding it to him, wailing as she does, "Brother, don't die. I haven't gotten my revenge. Ah, no, I haven't repaid you yet." He looks at her in pain and struggles to say, "Who said I?" Seeing him open his mouth to speak, she says happily, "You're okay now." She grabs his cheeks and pulls them, crying as she asks, "How is it? Do you feel anything? Are you conscious?" He flails his arms and legs and yells, "Painful, so painful. Let go." His father sits nearby, watching in horror as he is tormented by his sister, his face red as a beet, with 2 streams of snot running down. He looks at her and sighs. Truly the demoness of darkness, so cruel. Grandma Vuong also walks in worriedly and asks, "Siua, are you all right?" He tries to lift his head to look at her and replies, "I'm fine, Grandma, just a bit exhausted." Then he looks at his father and says, "Dad, just tell everyone outside that you killed the super beast. Help me keep this a secret, okay?" His father replies, "As long as you're okay, I'll agree to anything. Son, rest easy. Those insects have all been driven back." Grandma Vuong also says, "I won't say anything either, don't worry." He replies, "Yes," and then his eyelids slowly close. He looks at the desolate scene. He sees Grandma Vuong and Teothao happily chatting and thinks it's finally over. Then he sees his parents supporting each other and laughing, and sees the members of the assault and defense teams helping each other back to the rest area and thinks, "This life, I've managed to save everyone." He finally smiles gently and closes his eyes as everything is now okay. But then his eyes snap open. He is terrified and thinks, "Something's wrong. I still haven't received a notification from the flame seed. Could it be?" At that moment where the pack leader monster's corpse lies, its 2 wings tremble and rise. Heavy breaths escape from its mouth. Mansu, upon realizing the monster is still not dead, ignores the blood still dripping from his nose to the ground. He ignores his exhausted body and jumps to his feet. Teothao, sitting there, sees him suddenly stand up and looks at him. "Brother, His father sitting beside him also looks at him and calls out, "Monsieur." As for him, he doesn't answer them. As he walks forward, he thinks, my body is ultimately too weak. The wounds haven't healed, and I can't grasp the powerful spirit energy. Even though I possess perfect level basic gunmanship and past life memories of the monster's weaknesses and consciousness, the coordination between my body and brain is not in sync. It will take a long time to train. The shot just now had minor timing errors. It couldn't have blown it up. Could it be that, like my sister, 80–90% of it has already been corrupted? Fate is like a raging river. It cannot be changed by human strength. And then he sees the pack leader monster standing upright looking at him. He frowns in frustration and thinks, but I still want to change it. I'll use Mangnu King to beat it to death. His body sways unsteadily from exhaustion. A golden light emits from his eyes and he pants heavily. And a ball of light appears high above. Then that ball of light rushes down. It pierces straight through the monster's head. The energy from the sphere radiates out, paralyzing its body. Suddenly someone appears standing with both feet on a sharp point. The person is wearing a pristine white cloak and a black scarf that flutters in the wind. When people see that person, they look up and say, a superhuman has arrived. He wearily leans against a pile of rubble. The system displays a series of notifications. You have extended the critical time by 5 minutes. You created massive destruction before the superhuman arrived. In the defense battle targeting the monster, you played a crucial role. Contribution value +1×78. Due to the excellent handling of the special citizen, Bai Jiao Thao, the demoness of darkness's corruption rate is lowered by 2%. The future chaos level of Longthan City has been reduced. Contribution value +500 can awaken basic skill, Dragon Snake King, a beginner level harvesting support skill. He looks up at the person who just appeared and says, a superhuman. An hour later, the public address system plays a cheerful song, today is a good day, all lucky things will come true. The members of the defense team holding knives are dissecting the insect corpses. As they work, they chat and move a little faster. The longer it takes, the more these competition crabs will spoil and become inedible. Collect the black fluid carefully. That stuff is very valuable. He sits tiredly nearby, watching everyone and thinks I've had the high-energy nutritional injection and finished all the meat Mum cooked. I'm finally stable again. Exchanging for so many things has left my head with a lingering dull ache. As he speaks, he presses his temples with his hands, closing his eyes and frowning in discomfort. He remembers the monster's eyes from before and thinks, if the golden lion flame demon beetle's eyes appeared, it means the monsters are continuously leveling up. The war is about to get out of control. I must get stronger quickly. It seems just relying on the memories of perfect level skills isn't enough. I need to constantly apply them in actual combat to reach the height where body and mind are one. As he speaks, he opens his hand and looks at it. Then he pulls his hair and cries out, but I don't have any cultivation resources. I'm hungry all day. My legs are like jelly. I can barely breathe after killing one black armored beetle. How am I supposed to fight for real? Just then, he hears Tiu Thao holding her nose. Say, brother, they're still collecting insect corpses outside. Don't you smell how bad it is hearing her voice? He turns to look at her and thinks, that's right, harvesting. In my past life, Mum was seriously injured by a super beast, and I failed the exam to raise money for Mum's treatment and my sister's tuition. Dad brought me into the trade. In the battles with monsters, I constantly harvested so many carcasses, I became a veteran technician, and besides harvesters seem to be able to make money. Flameseed, show me the exchange list. As he finishes, he snaps his fingers to summon the Flameseed. The system immediately displays a notification. Bia Van Kin, 1500 contribution value, Long XR Kin. 2100 contribution value, beginner harvesting technique, 998 contribution value, current contribution value, 2478. He grins menacingly, drool dripping from the corner of his mouth as he thinks, even heaven is helping me. Beginner harvesting technique only, 998 contribution value. If I had worked for 10 years in my past life, the interest and upgrades wouldn't have been so expensive. Instead of doing what I'm good at, it's better to do what I'm familiar with. Then with his eyes shining like stars, he grins happily, points upwards and says loudly, Flameseed exchange for the beginner harvesting technique. As soon as he finishes speaking, his eyes flash. Wind appears from nowhere, blowing his hair and making it glow. He smiles sinisterly and says, Flameseed upgrade the beginner harvesting technique to expert level. As he requests, the beginner harvesting technique continuously levels up. He stands there absorbing everything and thinks, expert level beginner harvesting technique and perfect level basic gunmanship. They can even produce this effect. I really did choose correctly. Now, in most of my past life memories, the monsters haven't evolved yet. Doesn't that mean that when they appear, I'll be the one who understands them best in all of Longthan City? Thinking of this, his cheeks flush with excitement. Tio Thao, standing behind the door, peeks in and looks at him with fearful eyes, thinking, smiling so sinisterly, he's probably up to no good again. He, unaware of her thoughts, rubs his hands together and laughs, ha ha ha. After the insects have been eliminated, Monsieur's father gathers his tools and leaves the house. As he goes, he looks at them and says, Sieur Tio Thao, You two should go to bed early. I'm going to the North City battlefield to harvest. Jiu Thao excitedly waves to him while the son points to himself and says, Dad, I want to go too. I've thought it over. In this state, I probably won't do well on the exam anyway. Instead of looking for a job, being a harvester is fine too. Hearing this, his father frowns slightly and thinks, Monsieur, this kid's gunmanship is indeed not bad, but his body is too weak. There's an 80% chance he won't get into university. Being a harvester, although dangerous, is indeed a normal profession with a chance to awaken superhuman powers. After thinking for a moment, he waves his hand and says, All right, I'll take you to broaden your horizons a bit. Jiu Thao turns, grabs his arm and asks with a slightly worried face, Brother, are you really going to be a harvester? Seeing her like this, he internally smirks, strokes his chin and says proudly, Hearing her big brother is going to do such a dangerous job, even the demoness of darkness is a little worried. After all, the bond between siblings is so deep. Then she shyly says, If you encounter a black armored beetle, such a delicious monster, remember to bring it home to eat, okay? As she says this, she blushes and turns her head to the side. He was just touched, thinking she was worried about him, but no. It turns out she just wanted to eat. He angrily throws his gun to the ground and screams in his head, Deep bond my ass. I shouldn't have expected anything from this demoness of darkness. The scene shifts to the ground. A vehicle is driving on a road surrounded by monster corpses. The Flameseed appears and says, Although the monsters are detestable, their corpses are the only strategic resource to sustain Longthan City's development. Relying on the army to blow everything up, crushing all the monsters to dust, is indeed satisfying, but it wastes a large amount of ammunition and the precious lives of the local soldiers without gaining any benefits. In less than 3 to 5 years, Longthan City will run out of resources and will starve and be trapped to death. But a superhuman can use weapons to kill thousands of beasts. The corpses are preserved intact, and a lot of resources can be harvested. He's sitting in the vehicle, hears the Flameseed, and thinks, No wonder that earlier this year the army was only assisting in fighting the monsters. At critical moments, it still comes down to the superhumans. His father sitting beside him speaks up. This kind of manual labor is too hard. Being a harvester is not easy either. You have to be brave and careful. Don't be nervous later. Just learn from what I do. The son replies, Dad, I'm not nervous. The father crosses his arms and says, How can you not be nervous? A real battlefield and our little home are not the same concept. Tens of thousands of monsters, a sea of mechs filled with corpses. How can you not be nervous? The son replies, Dad, I'm really not nervous. The father says, If you're nervous, you're nervous. What's there for a father and son to be afraid of? I remember that year. The Flameseed appears and says, The aura of a high-level monster will stimulate the central nervous system in the body. Newcomers who haven't been to the battlefield are often extremely prone to losing bladder control. Hearing this, the son says helplessly, I'm really not. Never mind, I'm nervous. I need to pee. Hearing this, his father nudges his shoulder with his elbow and says, I'll pass on a secret to you. For your first time as a harvester, wear a diaper in your pants to avoid getting wet and smelly. The son asks helplessly, In the middle of the night, where am I going to get a diaper? His father quickly takes out a few and excitedly hands them to him. Look, what's this? When we get there later, find a corner by the wall and change, I'll cover for you. Nothing to be ashamed of. At this, the son's lip twitches and he shouts, Dad, I suddenly feel very confident about the university entrance exam. I don't want to be a harvester anymore. Let me go home. His father grins and teases him. That won't do. After driving for a while, the vehicle stops. The father gets out and says, Mr. Tam is the company's leader. Whether you become a harvester or not is up to him. Be a little quicker later. No, be a little more obedient. The son walking behind him replies, I know, Dad. Both of them have now put on gas masks. As they enter, they see a very fat man, his fat spilling over the chair, holding a fan, and looking at them as he asks, Old man, is this your son? This man is Tham Vin, Fat, the CEO of the QU Ham Resource Recovery Company. The father rubs his hands and bows to him. Mr. Tam, I've told you about him before, you see. The man takes off his mask, revealing a hideous face, and says, How should I put this? You've been injured before. In this situation, I don't know how to explain it to my brother-in-law. In his head, he thinks, Yo, is this a fat sheep coming to the slaughter? His father grabs the man's hands and says, I was injured a bit last year, but I've been fine for a while now. I personally brought the boy here. In less than 2 years, he will definitely be a capable assistant. Mr. Tam, please help him out. He stands there and sees his father pass a golden ATM card from his hand to the man's. He widens his eyes in disbelief and questions internally, that looks like a Longthan City gold card. This card is worth at least 10,000 yuan. Does Dad have that much private money? Should I try to trick this Tam Ven Fat out of his money later and get the card back? As for the man, after receiving the gold card, he puts his arm around the father's shoulder and says with a smile, All right, anyway, your harvesting team is just a branch of the company. Whoever you want to bring to learn the trade has nothing to do with the company. Just one thing, don't cause any more trouble. Causing trouble for me is one thing, but if my brother-in-law finds it troublesome, that won't be good. That's right. As he finishes, his face becomes terrifying, making the father tremble in fear. He forces a smile and nods. Understood. We will absolutely not cause any trouble for you, Mr. Tam, or for Brother Ho. Then he puts a hand on his son's shoulder and says, Sir, hurry, and thank Uncle Tam. The son bows his head and says, Thank you, Director Tam. The man puts his mask back on and waves his hand. Enough talk, seize the time and get to work. Don't be lazy. The son and father are still standing there, heads bowed, waiting for the man to leave. As he walks away, he thinks, to be able to accumulate so much money, it seems this manhwa son still has a lot of room for exploitation. The son then looks up at the man, his eyes full of displeasure, as he frowns and thinks, why do I feel that this Tam Vinh Phat is even more detestable than Tahoun Hien? The father turns to look at his son worriedly. Sue, Director. Tam is not someone you want to offend. Then a memory flashes through his mind. He widens his eyes in disbelief and thinks loudly, that's right, I remember now. In my past life, this guy seemed to have harmed my dad terribly. After Monsieur and his father met with and got permission from Director Tam for him to work there, the two of them leave talking as they go. The son asks him, Dad, you've been a harvester for years and everyone respects you. Why don't you establish your own position instead of just working at Q Ham? The father replies, starting a company isn't that simple. We don't have that much capital, nor do we have the social connections to supply monster carcasses. Be patient for 2 years. Wait until you've mastered the trade and your sister goes to university. We'll figure it out then. I will definitely not let you suffer any injustice. As he speaks, he places a hand on his son's shoulder encouragingly. The son turns to look him straight in the eye and asks, Dad, have you ever thought that more monsters will appear? Not understanding his meaning, the father asks back, What do you mean? The son replies, Recently a teacher came to our school for a short-term training session. Listening to his lecture, the monsters will very quickly complete their evolution. With more forms and more ferocity, they will appear before us. Didn't our residential area encounter a super beast today? This is a threat, but it's also a good opportunity. If we want to get rich or even change our fate, we must seize this opportunity. The father replies, It can't be, let's just work for now. We'll figure it out when we get back. I'll teach you how to harvest monsters. The son frowns and thinks, Since I've returned from the nightmare, there's no reason to rely on others anymore. I will establish my own power. Only then can I grasp fate in my own hands. The two then arrive at the monster carcass collection site. His father doesn't forget to tease him. Monsieur, did you put on a diaper? He really doesn't know how to respond to that question from his father. Then he walks over, picks up a monster's tail, points to it, and explains, Today we're harvesting all hard-shelled species, but mainly this scorpion with a large yellow patterned tail. The other workers speak up. Little Sue has never seen so many monsters before. It's an exciting sight, isn't it? Come over and touch it. With so many uncles here, how could we let you get hurt? Look, this one is still moving. It gives you a start, doesn't it? Standing amidst their words, he can only listen helplessly, not knowing how to react or what to say. He then says dejectedly, Thank you, uncles. His father continues, Monsieur, this is a relatively complete, yellow-patterned, large-tailed scorpion. I'll use it to teach you. We'll do it slowly. You watch carefully, okay? As he finishes, he inserts a prying tool into the monster. While prying out the monster's meat, he says, The front part of the limb will have slightly fatty meat. Then he taps the monster's shell with a sword and says, The hard shell can be directly used to make armor and can also be refined into an alloy. The mucus in its body is very rich and can be used to raise giant worms. Then he uses a tool to extract the monster's venom into a cup. Its venom can be refined into potions that activate the superhuman powers deep within the genes. The venom's hardness is very high, making it the best ammunition for snipers with natural effects of corrosion and extreme toxicity. Don't be afraid, it's not anything valuable. Just go ahead and do it. If it gets damaged, we can fix it. As he speaks, he hands his tool bag to his son. The son takes it with both hands and says, Okay, let me try. He then walks over to another monster's corpse, holding a prying tool in one hand and a saw in the other, and forcefully and decisively saws off the monster's meat. Then he skillfully extracts the nerves from its body. The flame seed appears and says, After the main nerve is separated, it needs to be immersed in a 37% concentration of nerve cell activator to maintain its freshness. He then puts those nerve cells into a chemical vial. Then he continues to dissect its meat. The flame seed speaks again. The butterfly-shaped blade has the perfect curvature to flawlessly separate the flesh from the shell. Meat extracted with negative pressure can be easily collected and preserved whole, and in his hand, right now, is a negative pressure suction machine. The flame seed continues. Finally use vacuum suction to extract the fluid and nutrients. And after a period of harvesting, the monster is now just an empty shell. He wipes the sweat from his forehead and takes a tired breath. The system immediately displays a notification. Congratulations to the firebearer on completing the standard resource collection for the first time. Contribution value +3. Beginner harvesting technique. Expert level. Proficiency +1. 1%. He looks at the notification and says, It's been a long time since I've practiced, so it feels a bit unfamiliar, and at this moment he turns his head to look at his father and the others, only to see them all staring at him with looks of extreme astonishment. He breaks into a cold sweat and screams internally, "Crap, I wasn't careful enough. I think I did it too fast." He then speaks up, "Dad, Uncle's things have come to this, and there's a secret I can't keep any longer." Hearing his words, everyone widens their eyes and leans towards him, clearly showing their confusion and anticipation for his explanation. His father is also quite surprised and wants to hear his explanation, but he is much calmer than the others. He lowers his head and says, "Actually, since I was young, I've dreamed of becoming a top harvester. Every time you went to work, Dad, I would secretly go and train hard, especially after I got injured last year. Knowing my chances for the university exam were slim, I became even more determined to become a harvester, training 10 times more crazily. The teachers helped me a lot. Plus, with persistent effort and encouragement from my family, heaven rewards the diligent. This is the result you all see." As he says this, he becomes full of spirit. After hearing this, everyone turns to look at his father, who is still standing there, processing the information and praises. No wonder a top high school student is indeed different. Brother man, with such a capable successor, you can just wait to enjoy your blessings later. His father ignores their praise and looks at him asking, "Asue, you've wanted to be a harvester since you were young. How come I've never heard you mention it? Why?" He dejectedly scratches his head and says, "Isn't it because you're the person I've admired most in my entire life, Dad? I was too shy to admit it. It would have been a bit cheesy." His father standing beside him hears this and is flattered, saying confidently, "Silly child, did you think that if you didn't say it, I wouldn't be able to see that you admire me?" Then the father and son high-five. The son thinks this is just to get through it. His father looks happy, but in his heart, he has other thoughts. "Asue is so understanding and capable. It's a pity your father is so useless. I don't have the ability to help you get into a regular superhuman faculty. I can only let you follow me and be a harvester in this lowly place." The son turns to look at him and says, "Dad, let's continue. Just now from the practical test, and combining it with the theory from class, I think I've found the feeling." As if sensing his father's mood, he says excitedly and confidently to lift his spirits. The father replies, "Okay, let's continue." He immediately gets to work, harvesting nimbly, removing the shell of another monster without touching the meat, thinking, "Not bad." It's this indescribable feeling, as he thinks he uses the negative pressure suction machine. Then he gently extracts another nerve cell and places it in the preservation solution, thinking, "The feeling of harvesting from my past life has returned. Now it's time for dissection." He takes out a scalpel, and then suddenly his eyes widen in disbelief, as he thinks, "I didn't expect this surprise." After Monsieur dissects a monster, the type, name, and value of each part of the monster appear before him. First is the nerve layer value, 50,000 nerves, value 20,000 plus, and one part with no name and no value displayed. He looks at it and says, "Kim Yu-Lin." His father standing behind him hears this and asks, "You even know about Kim Yu-Lin?" He turns to look at his father, snaps his fingers and replies, "The biology teacher just went over it." He puts the scalpel on the table and says, "Prepare. Scalpel handles number 9, 14, 22, and blades number 5, 8, 11. Also, the armor-shattering awl and the bone-probing needle. Also prepare a 33% concentration cooling stabilizing liquid. Pay attention to adding 1% mercury to it. Inside the Kim Yu-Lin's body, there's a high chance of unlocking high-grade materials. We must preserve it well." As he lists the needed items, he swings his arms to stretch and begins the harvesting process. One of the harvesters speaks up, "Monsieur, just leave it. The chief manager will come and handle it later." He now remembers this issue, places his hand on his chin, and thinks, "I really did forget about that." This complex structure of the Kim Yu-Lin, only slightly less so than a monster, is always handled by the chief manager or Brother Ho. But the state of this Kim Yu-Lin, as he speaks, he uses 2 fingers to scoop up a bit of the Kim Yu-Lin's mucus. He brings it to his nose, sniffs, and says, "Something's not right. This Kim Yu-Lin's nerves and nerve bridge have been exposed to the air for too long. At any moment it could undergo a flesh and blood mutation, its spirit energy going out of control. Every second it's becoming a ticking time bomb." His father and the others also approach the Kim Yu-Lin. He also takes some mucus, sniffs it, and says, "The smell is a bit off." Another person says, "The rotten material has nothing to do with us, but if the harvest fails, Brother Ho will blame us. No one will benefit." He holds the scalpel, looks at his reflection on it, and thinks, "No way Dad is relying on QHAM. Basic collection depends on performance. The value of this Kim Yu-Lin is so high, I absolutely cannot let it go." He turns his head to look at everyone and says, "It's okay, uncles, you all rest for a bit. Dad, come and help. My teacher happened to teach me how to dissect this Kim Yu-Lin." As he finishes, he makes a swift cut, slicing off a piece of the Kim Yu-Lin's shell. Just as he is about to use the knife to dissect someone, grabs his arm and says, "Monsieur, stop for me." Then another hand grabs that person's arm. It's his father. He grabs the person's hand, removes it from his son's, and says, "I'm the one who opened this Kim Yu-Lin. If anything happens, it will all fall on my head." That person shoves his hand away and says, "An old man messing around with a kid. You guys play, I'm not playing." The father turns his head to look at everyone and says, "If you want to go, then go. You don't need to stay here and get implicated by the two of us. Another person steps forward and slaps him hard on the head, making his eyes see stars. That person speaks up. What are you talking about? A Siu is like our own nephew. How could we let the two of you bear this alone? Yet another person comes over, nudges his shoulder with his elbow, and says, even though we're just a bunch of rough old men, it's just one Kim Yu-lin head. It's no big deal. And another person runs over, puts an arm around his shoulder, and says, brother man, don't you dare try to monopolize this Kim Yu-lin. If there's money to be made, we make it together. If something happens, we bear it together. He glances at them, seeing how they're supporting his father and him, and thinks, everyone I have to give it my all to. He immediately picks up the knife and begins the dissection. After a while, he finally sees what he needs to see. He gently uses scissors to cut downwards, then uses his hand to take that thing out from the Kim Yu-lin's flesh. He holds it in his hand and says, Dad, mercury, cooling, stabilizing liquid. Everyone stares at the object with their mouths agape and says in unison, what a spiritualized nerve bridge. This spiritualized nerve bridge is so fresh, the activity is at least over 80% perfect. I have to say our nephew's technique is too good. As expected, a young man is the most formidable. His father looks at him as he's looking down at the object and says, Asiu, be careful. This spiritualized nerve bridge was just separated. The activity is very strong. It might cause a violent shock. He looks at the object and says, this sphere. Then he smiles sinisterly and thinks, inside this sphere there seems to be a valuable treasure. His father, as if realizing something, says in alarm, Asiu, son. The others immediately start whispering to each other. That's right, brother Manch. Little Siu was injured last year. The main problem was his spinal nerves, right? That's right. This Kim Yu-lin's spiritualized nerve bridge isn't that the best medicinal ingredient. His father, however, doesn't pay much attention to their words. He walks over to his son, places his hand firmly on the container, holding the object, and says loudly, Asiu, don't think about it. This is a spoil of war that people had to fight to the death for. We are just harvesters. He is startled and says, Dad, I'm not. The father looks at him sternly and says, I know you want to get into a regular school. I also know you were injured last year. That was a huge blow to you. In the end, it's all because I'm not capable enough. But even if we're poor and have no other way, we can't take other people's things. Hearing his father's words, he feels so helpless he doesn't know what to say. He screams internally, Dad, you're overthinking it. You've really misunderstood. He then turns and walks away, waving his hand. Dad, don't say anymore. I'm going back to the vehicle to the camp to rest for a bit. As he walks, he places a hand on his lips and frowns, thinking I have to go back and think of a way to persuade them to establish their own position. After leaving the harvesting site on his way back to the camp, he suddenly hears a sound. He stops and thinks, this call, the seven-eyed dragon spider. Hearing it, he immediately grins excitedly and runs towards the sound, thinking as he runs, I have to catch up. This might just be my first pot of gold. When he arrives, he brakes sharply, right where the spider is screeching. There are two figures, a man and a woman. He hides behind a nearby rock, frowns at the two, and thinks, crap, someone else got to it first. The spider is already breathless. An old man with greying hair and beard with his hands behind his back looks at the girl and says, Loini, your reflecting seven solutions practice has not been bad lately. This seven-eyed wolf spider is just right for you to practice on. The girl puts on her gloves and looks at him, replying, yes, Grandpa. She firmly places her tool bag on the ground, opens it and says confidently, I only need 8 minutes to finish this battle. She immediately takes out a knife. Monsieur, hiding behind the nearby rock, watches her and frowns, thinking, why is this young lady doing it, unless they don't know the condition of this seven-eyed dragon spider? He then immediately shouts, wait. Startled, she turns towards the voice. Her grandfather also turns his head to look, following his shout. He walks out, makes a greeting gesture, and says with a smirk, esteemed senior, my name is Monsieur. My family is preparing to open a resource recovery company. I apologize for the intrusion. The old man looks at him and thinks, this young man even knows the etiquette of harvesters. Out loud he says, disturbing a harvester is a major taboo, young man. If you know this, why did you stop my granddaughter from harvesting this seven-eyed wolf spider? The young man says, esteemed senior, to be honest, that is a creature in the process of evolving. It's a seven-eyed wolf spider. Super beast stuck between level 1 and level 2. The structure inside its body is extremely weak right now. The newly formed venom sac is as thin as a cicada's wing. Once it's released, all the materials will be destroyed. If you handle it with the technique that young lady just used, you will definitely fail the harvest. The girl looks at the golden armband he's wearing and says, so you're just a mediocre harvester. No wonder you don't even recognize my grandfather's 100-shot ghost hand. Her grandfather speaks up. Young man, do you have a master? You just arrived and haven't even looked. How can you be so sure it's evolving? The young man replies, esteemed senior, I've been self-taught for decades. I can be considered an old harvester. As for the seven-eyed dragon spider and this seven-eyed wolf spider, both demon beasts are of the same clan, but their death cries are slightly different. It's not hard to distinguish at all. Hearing his words, the old man's face darkens as he repeats the key words from his sentence in his mind. Not hard. The girl angrily turns to look at him and shouts, who are you trying to scare, an old harvester for decades? Besides, even my grandfather couldn't hear it. How could an intern like you possibly hear it? The young man frowns and says loudly, "Esteemed senior, what I said is true. Although its external appearance maintains the form of a seven-eyed wolf spider, many of its internal organs have already begun to mutate. You can break the outer shell of this super beast to see for yourself." Hearing this, the old man frowns and thinks, "Not afraid of anything, just afraid of messing things up." He then speaks up, "Loini, let me." The girl bows and says, "Yes, Grandpa." Then, fuming with anger, she clenches her fists and curses him in her head. "You rotten brat, you're deliberately causing trouble for me, aren't you?" He walks over to her tool bag, takes out the tools, and says, "Young man, if you want to learn a few tricks, then watch carefully." The young man grins and replies, "I'm ready, please go ahead." With tools in both hands, he approaches the spider. His hands holding the tools seem to be trembling. Seeing this, the young man rubs his chin and thinks, "So old Master Nin is injured. No wonder he didn't want to do it himself. Looking at his condition, my first pot of gold seems to be secured." As he thinks this, 2 golden coins appear in his eyes, and he smiles sinisterly. Then he walks up to the girl and says with a smile, "Miss Nin, you probably still have 300,000 in cash, right?" She, currently puffing her cheeks in anger, turns her head to look at him with a question mark. Then she crosses her arms and says, "Why are you asking that?" He replies, "Look, old Master Nin's nerves are probably having problems. He definitely needs help with this operation. Otherwise, even without the harvested materials, it's worth more than 300,000. But adding my experience, my twin swords combined technique, I can at least perfectly separate the most valuable venom sac, plus other materials. The value is at least over 1 million. As he speaks, he closes his eyes and places his hand on his chest. Then he opens his eyes, which are sparkling like stars, and continues, "Our acquaintance is fate. I'll do it for just 300,000. Consider it a small contribution to society." She stands there listening to his non-stop speech, completely dumbfounded. The question marks above her head are both big and huge. She then opens her mouth and shouts, "Even if my grandpa is injured, he's still the 100-shot ghost hand. Even if he needs help, I'm here. We don't need a stinking intern like you to help. I'm telling you." Before she can finish, her grandfather speaks up. Loini, say no more. Startled, she turns to look at him and says, "Grandpa?" With a pale face dripping with sweat, he says, "You come over here and see for yourself. What that kid said is true." In front of him is the venom sac that the young man mentioned earlier inside the spider. Following her grandfather's words, the girl goes to look at the dissected part of the spider. She looks at it, her face darkening as she says, "This organ isn't right. This isn't a 7-eyed wolf spider." Her grandfather also says, "Indeed, it's not a 7-eyed wolf spider, but a rare, evolving 7-eyed dragon spider." In his head, he thinks, to think that I, the 100-shot ghost hand, would lose to a low-level super beast because of my injury. Monsieur walks up behind the two of them, rubs his chin, and nods with a hmm. She puffs her cheeks in anger and turns to look at him. He immediately makes a zipping motion across his lips, saying no more. Then she frowns and asks, "Brother, is there something you need?" He scratches his head and says, "It's all right. This 7-eyed dragon spider is rare. There are no super bizarre ancient mutations." After hearing his words, a very common phrase hits them like a rock, making them both spit blood. She turns to look at him and asks, "Can you really help my grandpa complete the harvest for only $300,000? Before he can answer, the old man says loudly, $500,000. Then he looks at the young man and says, "Young man, if you can lend this old man a hand, just maintain the venom sac's poison level at 70%, and this old man will immediately transfer $500,000 to you." Hearing this, he grins widely. Then he scratches his head and says with a laugh, "I'm still a superhuman in training. My strength and senses are very normal. I can only be your assistant internally." He pats his chest and sighs in relief. "Phew, lucky I reacted quickly. I almost said I would guide this old man to complete the task." The old man then ties his hair back neatly and says, "Then you'll be my first assistant. My granddaughter will be the second assistant. Let's begin." Hearing this, she and he, one wearing a mask and the other gloves, reply, "Okay." The old man begins the dissection process, holding out his left hand and saying, "Number 3, the young man hands him a number 4 knife with a number 7 diamond-shaped blade attached and says, "I know you want to use number 3 combined with number 12 to remove the lungs first. But look at its lung sac. It has many wrinkles. The structure is extremely fragile. If you operate directly, I'm afraid the quality will be damaged. I suggest starting from the fluid duct behind the lungs, first draining the surrounding area and finally dealing with the lung part. These fluid tubes are much sturdier than before, not easily broken. What do you think, old Master Nin?" As he speaks, he holds a sharp-pointed tool and points to the area to be dissected. When he hears his words, he frowns, startled, and glances at him in disbelief. Then he lowers his head and says, "This old man also had this idea." The system displays a notification. Elite citizen Nin Zha has followed your guidance, gaining a deeper understanding of the 7-eyed dragon spider. Contribution value, Pulse 55. Reading the system panel, he grins sinisterly, his eyes sparkling as he thinks, "An elite monster, it will definitely be strong." And so the three of them dissect the spider together, from the bones to the blood cells, and even the nerve cells. As he works, the old man glances at him and thinks, this kid as an assistant harvesting is indeed very comfortable. Maybe I should teach him a bit of the reflecting 7 solutions. He then turns his head to look at him and asks, little man, if it were you, what technique would you use to extract it? Hearing him, the young man quickly turns his head to look at him. He uses the sharp-pointed tool to point at the spider and says, from below, strike into the center. The 4th solution of the reflecting 7 solutions. The old man sees his action and says, this is while internally thinking in disbelief. Behind this mysterious youth, there's someone who has mastered the reflecting 7 solutions. If we follow this method, the extraction time will be reduced by 95%. Who is he? Who is his teacher? What kind of research team and powerful force is behind him?